The security scanner hummed its usual monotonous tune as I, veteran of the third spire, stood at my post on docking bay 7. Another rotation, another 1,000 beings passing through the galactic transit hub. My 3 eyes glazed over with the kind of boredom that comes from scanning the same species day after day, Chlorthians with their crystal bones, Hesperians with their acidic blood markers, Zentari traders with enough cybernetics to trigger every alarm in the facility. Nothing interesting ever happened on the graveyard shift. Then he walked in human. Male. Classification, Terran. Height, approximately 6 feet 2 inches in their primitive measurement system. Built like he'd been carved from the same metal as our battlecruisers. But that wasn't what caught my attention. No, what made my central eye twitch with curiosity was the artwork covering his arms, neck, and presumably areas I couldn't see beneath his worn leather jacket, tattoos. The humans called them tattoos. I'd scanned thousands of humans before. They loved decorating their skin with ink, images, and symbols that meant absolutely nothing to our threat detection systems. Flowers. Names. Abstract patterns. Occasionally something that looked vaguely weapon-like but turned out to be a memorial for a grandmother or whatever humans called their elder spawners. This one, though. This one moved differently. There was something about the way he carried himself, a predatory grace that made my survival instincts whisper warnings in the back of my consciousness. Step forward, please, I said, gesturing toward the scanning platform with 2 of my 4 arms. My voice came out more nervous than I intended, the translator chip in my throat clicking slightly. The human complied without a word. His face remained neutral, but I caught the slight twitch at the corner of his mouth. Amusement, maybe? Or was that the human expression for digestive discomfort? I could never tell. I initiated the standard scan sequence, expecting the usual readout. Species confirmation, biological markers, cybernetic implants check, criminal record cross-reference, and the always entertaining tattoo analysis that would categorize his body art as decorative or cultural significance. The machine whirred. The human stood perfectly still, hands at his sides, eyes forward. Professional. Too professional for a regular civilian. My secondary screen flickered to life with the preliminary results. Name, Marcus Vance. Species, human, Terran. Age, 34 standard years. Criminal record, none. Cybernetic implants, none detected. So far, so boring. I was about to wave him through when my threat assessment display began populating data from his tattoo analysis. This was usually the fastest part of the scan, a simple image recognition and database comparison that took maybe 3 seconds. 3 seconds passed, then 5, then 10, machine continued processing, its hum rising in pitch like it was straining against something. I tapped the display screen with one claw, frowning. Sir, if you could remain still for just another moment. The system appears to be cataloging your body art. Take your time, he said. His voice was deep, calm, with that peculiar human accent I'd learned to associate with their military personnel. The kind of voice that had given orders and expected them to be followed. 20 seconds now. My supervisor, Kelther, wandered over from her station, her antenna twitching with curiosity. Problem, veteran? The scanner is just being thorough, I said, trying to sound confident. Probably a software hiccup. 30 seconds, the human, Marcus, shifted his weight slightly. Still calm. Still patient. But I saw his eyes flick toward the display screen, and there it was again, that little twitch at the corner of his mouth. 45 seconds, other travelers in the queue behind him were starting to murmur. A Draxian merchant clicked his mandibles in annoyance. 2 Peltharian twins shared a telepathic conversation that probably involved several creative insults about my competence. Perhaps we should try a manual verification, Kelther suggested, reaching for the override console. It's when the system crashed, not crashed like a minor error. Not crashed like a software glitch that required a simple reboot. Crashed like someone had taken a plasma cannon to its central processor and then thrown the remains into a star. Every screen in my station went black simultaneously. Then red. Then black again. Warning klaxons blared. Emergency lights activated. 3 separate backup systems tried to engage and failed spectacularly, each one triggering a cascade of error messages that scrolled across my primary monitor faster than I could read. By the eternal void, Kelther breathed, her skin shifting to a pale green that indicated genuine fear. What did you do? I didn't do anything. I protested, frantically trying to regain control of my terminal. I just ran a standard scan. The human, infuriatingly, looked completely unbothered by the chaos erupting around him. If anything, he seemed slightly amused. My screen flickered back to life, but instead of the usual clean interface, I was staring at what appeared to be every warning symbol in the Galactic database displayed at once. Skull icons, biohazard markers, weapons classifications, temporal anomaly indicators, and several symbols I didn't even recognize flashed in a seizure-inducing pattern. Then, slowly, The chaos resolved into a single screen. A tattoo analysis report. My primary eye widened so far I thought it might fall out of my skull. My secondary eyes tried to look anywhere else, as if refusing to acknowledge what I was seeing would make it less real. My tertiary eye, the one in the back of my head that usually just watched for threats from behind, swiveled forward against all biological logic because even it needed to confirm this insanity. The report header read, Subject Vance, Marcus. Dermal markings analysis complete. Below that, in letters that seemed to pulse with an ominous red glow, threat level, catastrophic, and below that, in a font size that suggested the computer wanted to make absolutely certain I didn't miss this information, deceased enemies, 10-247. I read it 3 times. Then 4. Then I checked if someone had hacked my terminal as an elaborate prank. Then I read it again. 10,247. Each tattoo, the system explained in a helpful drop-down menu, represented a confirmed kill. Each image, symbol, and mark on his skin was a memorial to someone or something this human had personally ended. The scanner had cross-referenced galactic military records, mercenary guild databases, conflict archives, and even black market intelligence networks. Every single mark checked out. I said, which in any language translates roughly to my brain has stopped functioning, please send help. Kelther leaned over my shoulder, her antenna going completely rigid. That can't be right. That number, that's an army. That's multiple armies. That's accurate, Marcus said quietly. Though I think you're missing the 3 on my back. Your scanner probably couldn't get a clear angle. 10,250. I looked at him, really looked at him, and suddenly all those tattoos took on a new dimension. What I'd initially dismissed as random artwork now resolved into clear patterns. Military unit insignias. Coordinates of battles. Dates in the human calendar. Names in a dozen different languages and writing systems. Each one a story. Each one a life ended. The dragon wrapped around his right forearm wasn't just decorative. It was a Draktharian battle commander, species extinct, last seen during the Rim Wars. The geometric pattern on his neck wasn't abstract art. It was a star map marking the location of a pirate fleet base that no longer existed. The quote in human English script across his collarbone, something about walking through valleys and fearing no evil. I didn't want to know what valley he'd walked through or what he'd done there. So, Marcus said, his voice cutting through my existential crisis. Are we going to have a problem? Or can I catch my transport to Outpost Meridian? Behind him, the queue of travelers had gone completely silent. Even the Draxian merchant had stopped clicking his mandibles. Everyone was staring at the human who'd just broken our security system by being too dangerous for it to process, and looked at Kelther. She looked at me. Her skin was cycling through colors I didn't even know she could produce. I started, then stopped. What was protocol for this? There wasn't a protocol for this. Our threat assessment system topped out at existential danger to station security. This human had apparently exceeded that by several thousand percentage points. Am I under arrest? Marcus asked, and now there was definitely amusement in his voice. I don't know. I squeaked. I don't think we have a cell that could hold you. I don't think we have a planet that could hold you. He smiled then, and it was the kind of smile that probably looked friendly to other humans but made every survival instinct I possessed scream in perfect harmony. Relax, he said. I'm retired. Retired. This walking apocalypse was retired. What? Kelther managed, her voice barely above a whisper. What were you before you retired? Marcus picked up his travel bag from the scanning platform, slinging it over one shoulder with casual ease. Problem solver, he said simply. The kind of problems that don't go away with diplomacy. I stood there, frozen like a Keltorian ice sculpture, watching Marcus Vance adjust his bag strap while my brain tried to reboot itself. Problem solver. He'd called himself a problem solver. The galaxy's most terrifying understatement hung in the air between us like a live grenade. Kelther finally recovered enough motor function to reach for the emergency communication panel. Her hand hovered over the button that would summon security, station command, possibly the entire galactic defense fleet. I wouldn't, Marcus said without looking at her. Not a threat. Just a statement of fact, delivered with the confidence of someone who'd seen how that scenario played out before and knew exactly how it ended. Her hand retreated. Look, he continued, turning those unervingly calm eyes back to me. I understand this is irregular. Your system isn't designed to process someone like me. But check my travel authorization. Everything is legitimate. I have clearance from the Terran Diplomatic Corps, signed permits from the Galactic Transit Authority, and a very expensive lawyer who assures me that being good at my former job isn't actually illegal. Former job. Right. My hands shook as I pulled up his travel documentation. Sure enough, everything checked out perfectly. Too perfectly. The kind of perfect that came from having connections in very high places. His permits had priority codes I'd only seen on ambassador credentials. 3 different governments had vouched for his peaceful intentions. There was even a personal reference letter from a counselor whose name I recognized from the Galactic Senate. This is insane, I muttered, scrolling through page after page of authorizations. You have diplomatic immunity. You have military escort waivers. You have a letter here from the Zentari High Command thanking you for your service during the Kessler Rebellion. That was a messy situation, Marcus agreed. But it worked out. Worked out. The Kessler Rebellion had ended with an entire insurgent fleet disappearing in the span of 72 hours. I'd studied it in my security training as an example of disproportionate response capability. Apparently, I was now learning that disproportionate response had a name, and it was standing in front of me wearing a leather jacket. Kelther's skin had settled into a sickly yellow color. The database is still trying to categorize your threat level. It's been running probability scenarios for the last 2 minutes. What's it say? Marcus asked, sounding genuinely curious. She glanced at her screen, antenna drooping. It recommends we evacuate the station and establish a quarantine perimeter of no less than 50,000 kilometers. He laughed. Actually laughed. A warm, genuine sound that somehow made the situation even more surreal. Your system has trust issues. I promise I'm just here to catch a transport. No stations will be harmed in the making of my travel itinerary. Why? The question burst out of me before I could stop it. Why would someone with your credentials, your history, why are you traveling commercial? Why not military transport? Private vessel? Anything other than a civilian hub where you're going to terrify security officers? Marcus's expression softened slightly. Because I'm trying to be normal. Trying to remember what normal feels like. The war is over. The contracts are fulfilled. The problems are solved or dead, mostly dead. I'm just a guy trying to get to a beach resort on Outpost Meridian where nobody knows my name and nobody cares about my past. A beach resort, I repeated flatly. They have excellent surfing, I'm told. The waves created by the dual moons are supposed to be spectacular. This galaxy-ending weapon of a human wanted to go surfing. Behind him, I noticed the crowd of travelers had slowly been backing away, creating an expanding circle of empty space around Marcus like he was radioactive. Which, according to my still screaming scanner, he basically was in terms of threat assessment. A small child, some species I didn't immediately recognize, tugged on their parent's sleeve and pointed at Marcus. Mommy, why does that man have so many pictures? The parent went pale, whatever color pale was for their species, and quickly hustled the child away. Marcus noticed. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw something other than calm amusement in his eyes. Something that might have been regret or possibly loneliness. Look, he said quietly, and now his voice had lost that easy confidence. I know what the numbers say. I know what I was. What I did. Every mark on my skin is a choice I made, a line I crossed, a person who isn't here anymore because of me. I don't hide from that. Don't pretend it didn't happen. These tattoos aren't bragging rights. They're a reminder. A reminder of what? Kelther asked, her curiosity apparently overriding her survival instincts. That there's always a cost. That numbers on a screen represent actual lives. That being good at killing doesn't make you good. He shifted his bag again, and I caught a glimpse of another tattoo on his wrist, partially hidden by his sleeve. A single date in human numerals. I'm trying to be better. Trying to figure out who Marcus Vance is when he's not solving problems. Hence the vacation. My terminal beeped, finally finishing whatever nightmare calculations it had been running. I looked at the screen, half expecting it to just display a single word, run. Instead, it showed a revised threat assessment. Current threat level, minimal. Historical threat level, apocalyptic. Recommendation, allow passage. Subject has completed mandatory rehabilitation protocols and maintains cleared status with multiple galactic authorities. Note, do not antagonize. That last line was underlined 3 times. Well, I said, my voice cracking slightly. It appears you're cleared for travel, Mr. Vance. Gate 47, your transport departs in 90 minutes. Please enjoy your stay at Outpost Meridian and try not to solve any problems while you're there. He grinned, and this time it looked almost human. Almost friendly. Almost like he was just a regular traveler and not a walking apocalypse on vacation. No promises, but I'll do my best. Appreciate your patience. Marcus picked up a small data pad from the counter, standard issue for travelers, and started to walk away. Then he paused, turned back, and did something completely unexpected, reached into his jacket and pulled out a small card, placing it gently on my counter. If you ever need actual help. Not the fun kind of help, the boring kind. Someone bothering the station, pirates causing trouble, that sort of thing. My contact information. I owe you for not hitting that panic button. I stared at the card like it might bite me. Kelther leaned over, reading it with her superior vision. It just says Marcus and a calm frequency. That's all you need, he said. Fair warning, though. I charge consulting fees now. Retirement isn't cheap, and those resort drinks cost extra. Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd of travelers who parted before him like water around a shark. Kelther and I stood in silence for a long moment. Did that just happen? I finally asked. According to my scanner, yes. According to my sanity, I'm hoping no. I picked up the card, turning it over in my hands. Plain white material, simple black text. Nothing threatening about it at all, except for everything it represented. You should destroy that, Kelther said, her skin now fading to a worried blue. Probably, I agreed, but I didn't. Instead, I slipped it into my uniform pocket, right next to my identification badge. Because the thing about the galaxy, the thing you learn working security at a major transit hub, is that it's a dangerous place. Full of pirates and slavers and species that view other species as resources to be exploited, and sometimes, very rarely, it's nice to know that if things go really wrong, if the situation becomes truly desperate, there's a human with 10,250 kills tattooed on his skin who owes you a favor. And Y Terminal finally stopped its warning klaxons, settling back into normal operation. The queue of travelers cautiously resumed moving forward, though I noticed several of them had switched to different security lanes. Word was spreading fast. By tomorrow, everyone on the station would know about the human who broke the scanner. Next, I called out, trying to inject some normalcy back into my voice. A Draxian merchant stepped forward, the same one who'd been complaining earlier. He took one look at my still pale complexion and decided maybe waiting in line wasn't so bad after all. Take your time, he said quickly. No rush. Please, scan thoroughly. Very thoroughly. Kelther started laughing, a chittering sound that echoed through her translator. I think you traumatized them, Vecran. I traumatized them? That human traumatized the entire concept of threat assessment. My scanner is going to need therapy. But as I resumed my duties, processing travelers who suddenly seemed remarkably cooperative and patient, I caught myself glancing toward Gate 47. Wondering about Marcus Vance. Wondering what wars he'd fought, what problems he'd solved, what the real stories were behind those 10,000 kills, wondering if someone that dangerous could really just retire and go surfing. My terminal beeped with a priority message from Station Command. Apparently, the system crash had triggered alerts all the way up the chain. They wanted a full report on the incident within the hour. I looked at the blinking cursor, considering how to explain what had just happened. How do you write a report that says, scanned a human who was too lethal for our security system to process, but it's fine because he just wants to catch some waves? Kelther appeared beside me, reading over my shoulder. Need help with that? How do I even start? She thought for a moment, her antenna twitching. How about, today I met a monster who decided to become a man. He seemed nice. Approved for travel. Please update the scanning software. I stared at her. Then at my screen. Then I started typing. Somewhere on this station, Marcus Vance was probably buying overpriced coffee and browsing duty-free shops, just another traveler in the endless flow of beings moving through the galaxy. Just another human with decorated skin and a past he carried with him everywhere he went. 10,250 reminders that he was trying to forget, and me? I was a security officer with a business card in my pocket and a story nobody would believe. A normal day at the office.